Well, hi, my name's Ian. I want to welcome you to another 5-minute family devotion here at Engadine Heathcote Anglican Church. Today and over the next coming days, we're going to be looking at parables that Jesus told, stories that tell us about God's kingdom. Now, just a reminder to send in your photos and let us know that you're watching at home. It's great that you're all following along at home. Send in some photos over the next couple of days and I'll give you a couple of shout outs up on the board. Well, today we're going to look at a parable that Jesus told about two people, a Pharisee and a tax collector. Now, it's from Luke chapter 18, verses 9 to 14. And it's a really good parable because it tells us all about how we can be friends with God. Now, lots and lots of people were following Jesus, and there were some people who were following Jesus who thought they were pretty good. And because they thought they were pretty good, they looked down on other people. Now, that wasn't very nice. And so Jesus told them this parable. Now, there were two men who went up to the temple to pray. One man was a Pharisee and the other man was a tax collector. Now, let me explain about these two men. First, we'll start with the Pharisee. Now, Pharisees were good guys. They tried their absolute hardest to be very, very good. They tried their hardest to follow every one of God's laws right down to the letter. In fact, I'm sure that everyone liked the Pharisees because Pharisees were good guys. But tax collectors, on the other hand, they were not. Tax collectors were bad guys. They took money off their own people and gave it to the mean and nasty Romans. And they often took more money than they should have, and they kept it for themselves. I'm sure no one liked tax collectors. Tax collectors were bad guys. Well, the Pharisee and the tax collector both went up to the temple to pray. Well, firstly, the Pharisee went up and prayed. He prayed this: God, I thank you that I am not greedy or dishonest or unfaithful in marriage like other people. He basically kind of said, thanks God that I'm pretty awesome. And then he kept on praying. He said, I'm really glad that I'm not like that tax collector over there. He's a bad guy. Then the Pharisee started telling God about how good he was and how he didn't do anything bad. He said, I go without eating for 2 days a week and I give you 1/10 of all that I earn. Now, the Pharisee was pretty happy about himself and he was pretty confident of his own goodness. However, the tax collector was different. He knew that he wasn't a good guy. He knew that he had done horrible things and he was dishonest and he was greedy, but he was real. He stood off at a distance and he didn't even look up to heaven. He looked down. He was so sorry for what he had done that he beat his chest and prayed, God, have pity on me. I am such a sinner. Well, the two men had very different approaches to God. The Pharisee was so confident that he was good, and the tax collector knew he was bad, and therefore he asked God to forgive him. But Jesus said an amazing thing. Jesus said it was the tax collector and not the Pharisee that went home friends with God. Now, why did Jesus say that? Well, because the tax collector knew he was a sinner. He didn't pretend, and he asked God to forgive him. But the Pharisee, he thought he was good enough for God, and he didn't realize that no one is good enough for God. We all need forgiveness. Boys and girls, Jesus taught us this parable for two reasons. We should never look down on other people because we are all the same. No one is better than anyone else. We're all sinners and we all need forgiveness. And Jesus gives us that. And secondly, we need to be reminded that the only way that we can be friends with God is by asking Jesus for forgiveness. And the great news is that Jesus forgives everyone who comes to him and asks for forgiveness, because he died for us to make us friends with God. Now, in a couple of seconds, a couple of questions are going to come up on the board. And as a family, I want to invite you to read, to think, and to pray. And pause the video as you do each one together as a family. Remember, also keep sending your photos in and we'll say g'day to you in the coming